Frustration continues to grow, and it's not letting up in Franklin County after a decision was made by the state to build a 3,000-bed state prison right there in their local community. Joining us to talk about that today are local community residents, Shannon McChristian and her son, Jonathan Tedford. Thank you so much for joining us on Conduit today.
Thank you for having us.
Of course. Well, before we jump in and talking about this prison and the impact that it will have on your community, I just want you, Shannon and Jonathan, to just share a little bit about yourselves and talk about your family there in Franklin County.
Okay, I'll start. I grew up on a small farm. It's grown into a little bit of a larger ranch at the foot of Mill Creek Mountain, the property we're talking about. My dad has worked for all his life to put together this ranch, just piece by piece, and added to it. Had a great childhood. I have a brother and then a much younger sister, but my brother and I grew up together there on the farm, and he is now our local JP here for our area. So his name is Cody Sosebee, and you may see him on some other broadcasts. But we had a great childhood. We ran all over the mountain. That was home to us. Other families that live there, we were very close to, and it was just a great way to grow up. A lot of freedom up in the woods and fishing and riding horses and raising animals. So it's a special place, a very peaceful place up there. So anyway, I lived there, and then my children grew up there, and they all moved away and moved back. And so that brings me to my son, Jonathan. He had moved away, and then after he had a family, decided he wanted to come back and live close to the family land. He actually bought land that would join our family land except for the prison land. It's right in the middle. So
Wow.
He'll explain a little more of that. So I'll let him.
Yeah, so I moved off. I was in the oil field, and I traveled. I've been and worked in about 38 states. I, met my wife. She's from Heber Springs up by Greers Ferry Lake. Met her up there about 12 years ago now, and we got married. We had 3 kids. When our kids got old enough to go to school, we had started up in Heber Springs, and we had decided, we'd like to be back closer to Charleston. And I liked growing up here, and she was kind of indifferent. And so we moved back here, and our kids have been, we're very successful going to school here. We love the area. I grew up here, so I kind of knew what to expect, and people just don't know. You think you think a place, or that's just some podunk town, or whatever. And you'll hear many residents from around here will say, this is the best place on earth. Like, this is the best place I've ever been. We love living here. And anyway, so we found a plot of land. We looked for like 2 or 3 years, something like that, for a place that we, would be perfect for what we wanted. And we wanted kind of a house out in the country, out in Vesta, where our family land is at. And our dream was always to one day, once we found our place, our dream was to connect our place to where my grandfather had bought his land. And so we had wanted to, and it's just like she had said, there was just one strip of land there that a local man had owned that everybody knew. And we just always thought, man, if he ever sells that, we'd like to get a piece of it. Well, when they did sell it, they sold the whole thing, which is, understandable. It happens all the time, no big deal, to a guy. But we didn't know, really the guy that moved in or anything like that. And I know our family had tried to, reach out to him a couple times and just, you see your neighbor in the driveway, hey, how you doing? Nice to meet you. I live over here, kind of thing. And we didn't get a lot of information. We didn't really, we like to mind our own business up here, like, well, it seems kind of funky, but it is what it is. And it was the same kind of deal though. It's like every time, we was like, man, if he ever sold that, I'd love to buy a piece of that back property and connect mine and my grandpa's, land. And so once we found out that it had been sold, not only did that kind of take the wind out of ourselves on that deal, but then we were like, well, what's going there? And, and so it was just such a culture shock to, we're sitting out the day we found out, me and my wife sat in our backyard and watched our kids play out there, in the trees and in the pasture and stuff where they do every day. And just thinking about, wow, their background now is going to look a lot different once this prison gets built.
Yeah, and I want to come back to that because I thought about that when we were talking offline and you were giving me kind of the landscape of what it was like out there, and I thought, man, your babies are going to be running around out there and how different that will look. But take us back to a few weeks ago and how you all found out. And I just want our viewers to really understand what this timeline looked like. It happened very quickly, and especially for you all living there, just how it unraveled so fast and you all being made aware and then the deal being done. I'm sure you guys just got, I mean, just whiplash from it all. The governor went on the radio and made an announcement, and Jonathan, correct me if I'm wrong, but it was the same day that the papers were basically signed on that land.
Right. I found out just with panicked phone calls from local residents. I was at work, didn't know anything was going on. And I started getting phone calls and texts saying, what is happening? What's happened? They're building a prison here on our land? And I didn't know what was going on. The next thing was the accusations against my brother as the JP. People were like, how did this happen? And how did your family let this happen? Cody should have known about this. Did y'all know this was going to happen? And we were just as shocked as anybody was. And then we found out within just a few hours that no one knew. Our judge didn't know. Our senators didn't know. The higher up in the chain we went, the more panicked and shocked we were that it was, and it was announced to us as it's a done deal. There's nothing you can do. It's happening. You have no voice. You have no say. And that, I compared it to having a death in the family. We cried every day. The grief from that first couple of weeks that we all felt, it felt like we were losing a part of our family. This land our family is so, integrated into this land that
it's our sanctuary.
It's
a sacred place.
It's the only home we've known for our entire lives. And so it was just such a shock to find out that, no one knew. And the first 24 to 48 hours was the whole town and the county blaming each other or thinking somebody had to know. Somebody was in on this. Somebody's been working with her. And once we all began to trust each other again and realize that really no one knew, all the way up to our senators, then we started to band together. Then it became, we have got to get together and fight this. And that's where we've been more recently. Jonathan may want to talk more on that.
I just what was the original question on that?
Well, given our viewers the timeline of just how quickly this happened with the governor going on the radio. I believe it was a local radio station there at the end of October, and then very quickly followed by a town hall. I think probably the town hall only happened, and this is my personal opinion, just to appease you all, really.
Exactly.
That's exactly right. And once we found, like, the same thing what she said, we're getting phone calls. I was even getting phone calls. I'm not involved in politics. I'm not, we're not politicians or any kind of a community, voice or anything. We just kind of got stuck in the middle of this where we had to kind of say, hey, we have a big stake in this issue and we're going to stand up and we're going to fight against it. And we were getting calls nonstop. And what I was telling people at the time is I was like, let's see what she has to say. Let's make everybody take a deep breath.
It can't be like it looks.
Yeah, I know it looks crazy. So let's just, maybe it's not what it seems. Let's take a breath. Let's listen to what she has to say on the radio. Mark Dietz, who's at KDYN over there, who interviewed her on the radio. And, we was like, we know Mark personally. He's a personal family friend of ours, and we know him very well. And we knew that if there was, if we trust him, and we knew if there was something fishy going on, or if there was a hard question that needed to be asked, he would ask it. Mm-hmm. And there was many of those questions that he put out, and she talked her way around it. And some of those questions were repeated multiple times through that interview. It was like, well, can you clarify this for us? And she just kind of gave us this is kind of here. Look at all the good things that's going to happen.
Yeah, I'm investing in your county. Yeah,
look at the right hand and don't look at the left hand. Kind of thing. Look how good it is over here. Don't worry about the bad stuff. And so that's when everybody freaked out. I mean, it was townwide, countywide. I mean, partly statewide panic. I mean, people were like, how can they even do this? And I mean, you start looking into all the things that was happening leading up to that for the last year or two of them putting together something for, with the Board of Corrections for a prison. And Joe Priffrey, I'm probably butchering his name, Priffrey, that's her senior advisor, he comes out last year sometime in an interview and states the things that they're looking for. And one of them was community, involvement and community, they want the community to back their decision to put that there. And
so what flipped?
Yeah. So
what changed?
So there was zero community involvement on this, zero support, zero anything. And then they come in the next week and put together a town hall meeting. Now, here's another thing on these things. When these issues arise, and you can look at every other, any state facility, but a prison or not, any government facility, what happens is they come in, they have a town hall, they speak to the people, they let them know what's going on. Now, those people may not be able to change their mind or anything like that, but hey, we want to be transparent. We want to say what's going to happen here. They did not elect to have a town hall meeting. This is a misunderstanding, I think, that a lot of people are having. The people in Charleston put together a town hall and invited them to come, and they agreed to come for 2 hours. And so there was no town hall. It was the town and the county and surrounding towns that would be affected by this that came together, and the school was gracious enough to let us use their gym because obviously we had nowhere to go. As a matter of fact, it changed locations once because the place we were going to use, it got way too big, for that. So we had to move it. And so you have different, you had all these things piling up where we're not getting any answers. And then all of a sudden everything's bam, 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 and nobody knows exactly what's going to happen. And you're just having to, it looks like they're reading off of a teleprompter and not answering any questions, is how we felt.
There was a lot of panic. And you have to realize that the citizens that are involved in this, we are not political people. This is a conservative community, mostly Republican. We put her in office. Jonathan said yesterday in an interview, we expected her to represent us and work for us. And that's why it feels like such a betrayal and, such a stab in the back is because, call us, talk to us, call our Chamber of Commerce, call our city council, call our judge, get us on board, sell it to us, tell us the benefits. But what happened is they came to our town hall meeting. You probably saw it with the crossed arms and the you'll learn to like it. In 5 years, you'll be glad we did it. Like we don't know what we want. And what we want is not the increased economy, not the increased jobs. What we want is our peaceful way of life here. And we're not in the minority. We're in the majority that is saying that. Most citizens here are fighting as hard as they can fight. And I think that says a lot about our town. It doesn't matter how much money comes in here. We're not willing to make that trade-off. And I don't think she thought that would be an issue. I really do think that in her mind, somehow it was all going to be, accepted and approved here. And it's just not going to happen here.
Yeah. And to expand on that point, I mean, we've had many, people have reached out and wanted to comment from us, wanted a statement from us, wanted to interview us and things like that. What everyone asked me is, can you give me some phone numbers of the other people who oppose this? Like this is, like we have 12 people and we're in a picket line out in the street. And I'm like, no, I'm not handing your phone number out. You don't understand. Like you're going to have 10,000 people.
There's thousands of people that are wanting to talk and feel like they don't have a voice.
Just in our county, there's 17,000 people that live in this county. And I mean, you'd be hard pressed to find. I bet there's under 100 that would be okay with it or that wants it. And, and then you think about the surrounding towns, the surrounding counties. And like she said, we're not a bunch of politicians. And we're kind of like please leave us alone. We'll leave y'all alone. We'll vote when the vote comes up. And if you align with our values and If you're going to do things that we think is going to be better for our community, we'll help you. We'll try to help you get in there. If not, then we tried our best, and we'll give you a pat on the back and roll on about our day. But you can't walk here. I'm telling. I spoke to somebody yesterday, and I told him, I said, if you want to interview people from around here that oppose the prison, come here. Walk into any business, walk into any place, walk into the restaurant, the local restaurants, walk in and sit down. How about this prison deal? And listen to that waitress, almost cry, talking about her kids playing and talking about things like that. And it's every single business, every person, every resident.
Speaking for our family, I do want to say at the town hall meeting, they chose 2 citizens to speak. One of them was Rosemary Underwood. She spoke at the beginning, did an amazing job. I don't know if you've watched the town hall meeting.
I did.
Okay. So then at the end was my dad.
Okay.
He was the rancher, the older rancher that spoke. I stood with him as he spoke. And after that happened, a reporter asked me that same night, what political position does your dad hold? And I said, he doesn't hold any political position. He never has. He's a local rancher. He's one of about 10 or 15 we have left here in their 80s that have big local ranches, but he's highly respected here. And that has given the community has gotten behind our family simply because of the respect my dad has and has always had here. We are not politicians. Now, my brother is a JP. I said that earlier. We're just normal citizens. So we're playing catch up on all this political stuff. I never knew much about prison reform. I never knew anything about all this. I didn't even know there was a prison board until 3 weeks ago. So we are really trying to play catch up and learn. Now, in the last 3 weeks, there have been a core group of about 15 or 20 people. We have read every article. We've watched every Senate hearing. We have played catch up and we're in the ball game now, but we're just starting there. Luckily, we do have legal representation that helps us, and we have some senators. Bryan King has been amazing. Gary Stubblefield has been amazing. There are a couple others that have stepped up and have just taken the hit for us.
Yeah, I was going to ask you what legislators specifically have reached out to offer any assistance.
Yes, Gary Stubblefield and Bryan King have been in touch with our family daily.
I did text Bryan King today, and I asked him, I said, it's been said that you were specifically kept out of a meeting regarding the prison. Is that correct, with the administration? And he said yes. Are you aware of that?
Yes, I am. We kind of found out, as I said, Cody, my brother's a JP. Well, there was supposed to be a quorum court meeting last Thursday night. They got a text saying, and Cody was looking forward to it because he wanted the county to band together, the quorum court, to talk about this issue. They got a text that morning saying it had been canceled, and they knew the only reason those meetings get canceled is if the judge is called away. So Cody just picked up the phone, called the judge, and said, why was it canceled? And he said, well, I've been called to the Capitol. And Cody said, by who? And he said, by the governor to have a meeting. Well, Cody just kind of hit the roof because he was like, who got called? It kind of broke. At that point, Cody asked who was invited and who was not invited. He was told Bryan King was not, and that the JPs specifically were not. And I assume the JPs were singled out because of Cody being a JP and our family involvement. I think they know how we feel. So,
I do know that another legislator was also did not receive.
I kind of have a list of those. Yeah, our mayor was involved. Our mayor and our county judge were able to attend.
What does that say to you? Does that say to you that, hey, we want to bring everyone to the table and listen and figure this out? Or
no, it doesn't. And I think it just made it worse. If you want to have a spirit of transparency, you're going to involve everyone who is deeply involved in this. I mean, why do you have to hide anything? Why do there have to be people that aren't invited? It doesn't make sense to me. But I think she's picking and choosing. I think she's hiding a little bit. And I think she only wants to speak to certain people right now about this. A lot of us she doesn't want to hear. I tag her in every Facebook post that I make. But again, I'm just a small town citizen. She'll never probably know my name, but she has turned our lives upside down.
Well, and to make that point, I mean, we don't want to make it sound like our county judge or our mayor is not doing something or has not tried to argue, because they have. They have done a lot.
They have made statements, and they are on our side.
But I think, and if you watch the meeting, Bryan King is very vocal about this, and he's not afraid to look you right in the eye and tell you what he thinks. And I think that's the kind of people they don't want in the middle of this. They don't want to have to face those people face to face. They want the people who are going to be diplomatic. And like the mayor of our town, he has done a lot. He catches a lot of flack from people because they feel like he's not done enough, or he's, and here's the thing. This prison is not going to be built in Charleston. It's going to affect Charleston, but it's going to be built in the Vesta community. The mayor of Charleston has no say out there. And he has done a lot and has tried to do things and is trying to be diplomatic and is trying to, if you go into these meetings screaming at people, they're not going to invite you up. And that's a perfect example. He's trying to stay there where people will talk to him, where he can get the information, where he can relay information to the citizens that it is going to affect. But make no mistake, we believe everybody involved here on our end, on the local side, from the county judge down, our state representatives. We believe they are trying to help, and they are doing everything they can, and they are fighting for our freedom.
One thing that we talked about, Jonathan, is that we're not saying that, or y'all aren't saying, we don't believe in prisons and we don't believe a prison should ever be built. We know that they are necessary. You were saying, though, it's just how this came about and the lack of transparency.
Absolutely.
So talk to us about that.
Yeah, I believe, and I told you, I've had people reach out and say things about, we don't believe in prisons. We want prison reform and things like that. And I don't think that's always the answer. I mean, I would love if you could reform everyone that was arrested, but unfortunately, that's just not always the case. And so when you look at that, you have to have a place for these people to go. If they are breaking what is considered to be if they're doing what's considered to be breaking the law at that time, they have to have a place to go once they're sentenced. We understand if the state solution at this time that they have come up with, there are a lot of people, if they're smarter than us, that have legal teams and have college degrees and things like that we don't, maybe not all of us have. And so if this is the best solution they've come up with by knowing all the facts, then we say, okay, let's build a prison if that's what we need to do. But the lack of transparency in a local community of tight-knit people that you're going to throw this in, I believe the correct stat on that is over 70 homes within a half mile. I know from my house, you'll be able to see the prison from my back porch. And so when you look at that and you go, well, hang on, how many places in Arkansas have tens of thousands of acres? We couldn't have purchased that. We couldn't purchase a piece of a federally owned land.
And that's a big argument of ours, is other areas want this prison.
Right.
They're lobbying for it.
And that's what I was getting to, is like we have all these areas that have local communities that are begging for this because they see the list that comes with this, the good parts that they're selling on this, and they go, hey, we'll take that. We don't care about the bad things. And we're exactly the opposite. We only care about the bad things.
Yeah, we don't. Franklin County is like, I think fifth to the bottom in the state of Arkansas for crime right now. We are almost crime free. We do not even have deputies after midnight. Don't tell anybody.
Our local towns don't have patrolling police officers after 7 or
that reminds me of how I grew up.
And so, we have one ambulance that services, or maybe two right now, that services our whole county. We are a low crime area, and it is mind boggling to me that they're going to bring 3,000 prisoners from other high crime areas and say they're now your problem. They're not ours. They're your problem. And it's un-American to me. I don't.
And also, like, a reasonable point that we have to remember down here too is, like, we have Sebastian County next to us too. We have Logan County next to us too. We have Northwest Arkansas, which isn't a huge crime wave, but there is crime that happens up there, and all those prisoners have to travel. We get that. We're spending a lot of tax dollars paying people to drive these prisoners to the other side of the state. Like, we get it. Like, we know all the points. Like, we get the selling points, and we understand that maybe the prison does need to be built on this side of the state. maybe, maybe there is a place where that something comes up that's just better suited. I mean, our point is that the place that's been selected is not what they're talking about. All the points they've made, it's not secluded. It's not away from there. There is no infrastructure. There is nowhere to build this where it's going to cost less money. There is no water up there. The electric companies, water companies weren't even contacted before the land was bought.
Yeah.
There was no surveys done on how this is going to work. No testing.
Local farmers have been denied water. We have had chicken houses in that area just recently that have been denied water permits to build chicken houses there because there's not enough water.
And you could go on lack of cell phone service, lack of access to there. I mean, if it snows, you're not going to get in and out of there.
Yeah, it's up on the mountain. The hospitals, the access to medical care in the winter, they're going to have a hard time getting in and out of there.
The fire departments within 30 minutes, they're all volunteer firemen. There's no full-time.
Yes, there's two people.
Anyone listens to you all. I don't know how anyone can listen to you two and then think, yeah, that sounds like a great idea.
that's probably why they're not talking to us.
We would love to talk to
build that prison on that plot of land.
If you've seen the site assessment that she released, the local joke here is the fire department that she listed that would service the prison is 2 miles away. And I wish I had my picture with me. I've been carrying it with me, but it literally has 2 trucks. We have 2 volunteer firemen and a third that they're trying to add.
Yeah.
So that's going to service the prison, I mean,
these are pickup trucks with water tanks on them. They're
going to have to build new highways. They're going to have to blast half of that mountain with dynamite to be able to build this facility, which is going to affect people's wells.
Or they're going to haul in $100 million worth of dirt.
Exactly.
To build
if this happens, watch and see. 10 years from now, look back and we will be right, because people that we know are building houses on this mountain. We know what it takes. That mountain, he's right. They're going to have to either haul in literally $1 million worth of foundation prep, or they're going to have to blast, which is what I think they're leaning toward, blast half of that mountain away with dynamite, which is going to affect people for 20 miles and those people are on wells. They're not on city water because city water doesn't run up there. My dad can't get city water.
South of that prison property, there is no city water.
There's no option for
it. There's no company that'll do it. We've even had local contractors that have contacted the water departments and said, we will donate the labor if y'all will just pay for the materials and give us the plans to do it. And they said no.
$60,000.
No. $180,000 is what it's going to cost
to get water run to a house up there.
That's right.
Okay.
We're like
I know,
throwing too much.
Okay, we're going to take a deep breath and let you talk.
What do you think? Okay, if you are just speculating, or I'm sure you guys have thought this so many times, and our viewers are going to be scratching their heads and they're going to say, why Franklin County? Why that plot of land with all of those issues, with other counties vying for it, with land being donated? Why there?
That's the $1 million question.
Yeah.
That's why we need freedom of information. Right there.
Yeah.
You've hit on it. We need freedom of information to find out the why, because as much digging as we've done, we have not been able to get to her why.
And just being, poor simple country folk over here, I know we're probably missing big details, and we probably don't know everything about the process on their end that goes into this. And, like we said, it's been years in the planning, and we understand all that. But the problem is when there was a decision made on their end, that's when all the information stopped. And then when people have sent in, FOI requests for them, hey, can we just see y'all's emails? How'd y'all come up with this? Can we just see some of the stuff that went back and forth between y'all's offices? Maybe y'all's just official briefings and stuff like that. And they said no. Because she has, I guess they had put in a new law last year saying that she doesn't have to release her stuff now.
She probably knows more about that.
Yeah. So I mean, and like you'd said earlier, make no mistake, we all voted for her. This is a Republican county with Republican people that want Republican values and conservative values, Christian-based things are in this area. And to be blindsided by this, by someone who we supported, that's the answers that we're looking for have not been put out. And so far, when we do get an answer, it's when it's too late. And so it just feels like they are pushing something, shoving it down our throat and cutting off all the information before it gets there.
I would like, if I could sit in a room with her for 5 minutes. I think she's tired of fighting this prison fight. I think it has gone on for years as far as expanding beds, not expanding beds. The board has fought with her personally or with the directors. I understand she said, we've been kicking this can too long. She keeps saying that. She said it 3 or 4 times in interviews. I understand that frustration of not having an easy, clear answer that everybody likes, and you just have to plow ahead and do something anyway. I understand it. But we need her to understand that we matter here in rural Franklin County just as much as they matter in other parts of the state. We need her to back up and show compassion and understanding and listen to us. We need to start over. We've offered as a county to buy the land back. We can offer her a graceful way out of this.
There's been local individuals also offered her land plus extra. I'll tell you what, we'll let you make money on this deal if you will just back off and stop where you're at right now and then reconsider a different location. I keep thinking
the best PR she could do is to say, hey, I'm going to listen and I'm going to work with you guys to find a solution. That's all we want. That is all we want is for her to work with us and listen to some other solutions. Maybe she's just been listening to the board. Maybe it's time to open it up and listen to some other people.
Yeah. And
the people who voted for her.
Yeah. And, we also don't believe that, the state should come in and claim eminent domain. We also understand that there's not many places out there in Arkansas, especially. This is not Texas or Montana where you're going to go out and find a 20,000 acre farm for sale. We get that. Like, we know it's difficult. We know there's things, but, and maybe, in my simple way of thinking, maybe we don't build a 3,000 bed prison. Maybe we build a 1,000 bed prison over here. Maybe we have a transfer facility on this side of the state where you can build a prison in another part of the state and maybe bring people here short term or something, But the long and the short of it is, our whole gripe on this thing is, it doesn't need to be in our backyard. If you find another space, if it was 10 miles from here and away from everyone and 20 miles from here, 50 miles from here, whatever it's going to be, if you head down, if you go, up the interstate, I always think about the interstate, driving up. I've traveled a lot, and you drive up the interstate up to Northwest Arkansas, and you might drive for 45 minutes without seeing a building, and you think, man, you couldn't go to, there's no one on this side of the state that the government could come in and say, hey, we'd love to give you $3 million for this piece of your land. And now listen, we probably wouldn't take it, for hours. And we don't have enough to warrant $3 million.
No, we wouldn't.
But there's a lot of there's places out there. There's people that would, and there's places that have donated, and there's
just because it wasn't for sale doesn't mean it couldn't have been sold.
Yeah. Right. And you look at you look at the interstate going north, you look at 71 going south, and it's like, man, there's so much area out there that's unoccupied, and maybe not unoccupied, but there's not a house there.
And I've gotten into several social media debates lately. I know better, but where people will say, you're being a little dramatic. You won't be able to see the prison from your porches. There won't be houses right against the prison fence. Yes, there will.
Yeah, listen, I have an uncle that
I wish people would drive out there and see what we're talking about, because yes, you will. There are houses with porches looking straight at the building they will build.
And when you think about a state prison, it is a massive complex. And you think about the lights and the infrastructure and the
we said that they're going to have to put in 4-lane highways.
And you look at the Cummins. I mean, you look at these other prisons that exist right now on 15,000 acres that are half the size of this facility.
And Jonathan, and then I want to ask y'all about the group, and then I'll let y'all go. But Jonathan, I can't help but think, you mentioned you have 3 children. Correct me if I'm wrong. The ages, they're little. There's like
9, 7, and 1. Yes.
9, 7, and 1. And if this moves forward, that's going to be in their backyard where they're running wild and free. And how does that make you feel?
So I grew up on that mountain. I grew up running around with my grandpa. I remember when I was a kid, my son's age, my son's 9, my oldest son. When I was that age, me and another kid that grew up on that mountain, our grandpas would drive us around at night. We'd go raccoon hunting up there, with our dogs and everything, and they would just kick us out of the truck once the dogs started barking. Hey, go down there, y'all hurry up and get back with that raccoon, or whatever. And that's how we've kind of had our kids living. We kick them outside and say, hey, go find something to do. No, we're not sitting in front of the TV. No, we're not going to sit in here and eat snacks and things like that. We're going to go out and have fun. If you can't figure something out to do, then just be bored. That's okay.
Right.
That's okay to be that way. And our kids, man, they'll go outside, they'll play for 10 hours. You got to go find them in the dark, usually in the evening. And so, we've been pretty lucky with how independent they've been able to be, and to be out there in the woods and to go and climb trees and make forts and things like that.
Those of us who grew up that way, I've been saying, if you know, you know. Yeah. And if you don't know, you never will.
Yeah.
You will never understand it.
And my 1-year-old, just recently started walking. He's out in the yard chasing chickens and stuff. And then we've been sitting on the back porch just watching, him chase chickens around in the yard and stuff, and just like, this is it. This is the last time this will happen. Well, no one will ever be able, once this is done, nobody's going to be able to have a baby out here like this. Nobody's going to be able to have their kids just run loose in the woods and chase the dog and stuff like that.
Besides the traffic and the noise and the light, they're saying you might be able to see the light for miles. Yeah. That whole mountain. I mean, our whole community, our schools we didn't even get into the infrastructure, but our schools are not set up to, they're estimating it'll double in size. Nobody is set up.
Their example was Calico Rock. That's what they kept talking about in the town hall meeting. Calico Rock's crime rate went up exponentially. Their population also doubled in size since the prisons went in.
Yeah.
So when you do that, if you put that in our community like that, there's nothing. Our school does not have, another 500 acres to build on next to it or something like that. Like we're kind of like, our school already grows at a rate that we're kind of like, man, we're gonna have to do something in the next 10 years. We got to figure some things out. And I mean, our school administrators, our city council, our mayor, everyone is going, what are we going to do when this gets here? Because we don't have the facilities. We don't have the police force. We don't have the school for it. We don't have the hospitalization. We don't have attorneys. We don't have the infrastructure set up in our local towns, much less where this is going to be.
And we don't want it.
And we don't want
That's
it.
the clear part.
We would love nothing more than not have to expand all those things. If nothing more than just tax dollars that's going to come out of our pockets again for that.
Yeah. We didn't get into how she's going to pay for it, and that's a whole nother nother show.
I can have y'all back on again soon, because this is not going to be an issue that's going to go away. And next time I can have you back on, tell us about the group very briefly that y'all have created.
So we've got the Franklin County and River Valley Coalition. You can find them on Facebook and things like that. We've got
Franklin County Connected is the actual Facebook page, but the website is Franklin County and River Valley Coalition. We also have a GoFundMe up and running. You'll find it under Franklin County and River Valley Coalition. We're hoping to pay an attorney with it. We're hoping for advertisement. We've got a lot of costs, and right now we've got a lot of free labor happening. So we're struggling. We need everybody. We need help all across Arkansas. We really do.
Well, we've covered so much, and Jonathan, and I thank y'all so much for joining us on Conduit. And again, this is not about not wanting a prison. We know that the system is broken. We know that something needs to be done, but there just needs to be accountability and transparency. And so I really appreciate y'all coming on and talking about this. And I want to have y'all back on as things progress to keep our viewers updated.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you.
We appreciate you paying attention to us.
As my grandpa would say, come out and see us at the mountain out there.
We'll put you on a horse and take you all over the land. So you come right on. We'll take you to dinner and take you out horseback riding. So come on, we'll show you.
That sounds perfect. Okay, thanks, y'all.
All right,
thank you.